Okay, next stop is 231 Main Street in Ellsworth, just down the road from Ellsworth City Hall, and that is St. Joseph's Catholic Church. And this is where they filmed the really intense funeral scene for Gage. And they did film inside here. So we're gonna see if we can go inside and take a look, because again, I do not believe anybody's ever documented this as a filming location for Pet Sematary, and it's a big one. So here we are inside the church. Now there isn't a whole lot to cover here in terms of different shots and angles. There's essentially really just this one kind of master shot that's taken from behind where Gage's casket would be, sort of looking out onto the entire church. And basically the scene is Lewis's father-in-law, Milton, is confronting him about being negligent or not paying attention when he was in the road, and he kind of loses his temper and decks Lewis in the face, and we have a little bit of an issue here at this poor toddler's funeral. But this is basically the master shot here. Then you have this quick shot here with Judd and Ellie sitting in the third row back pews watching what's happening. And we get this angle here. This is kind of back to the master shot, just a little bit tighter. You can see those three lights, well, six lights, but three on each side hanging down in the stained glass window in the back there. Pretty prominent in this entire sequence here in the church. And that balcony in the background is one of the most prominent and recognizable things at this location. So this is kind of a quick view from Rachel's perspective, looking towards where the casket would have been. And she's kind of seeing the action happening there. As the altercation between Milton and Lewis takes place. Now, one of the interesting things that I realized, I think, from being at this location is I don't believe that they actually filmed the sequence where Lewis and Milton are get into that fist fight, and Gage's casket gets knocked over and falls on the ground, and the lid pops open, and Lewis gets to see Gage's little hand bounce up and down and is just overcome with grief. I actually think that was done on a set. I could be wrong, but this just doesn't match up for that. Now you'll see when the casket gets knocked over, it's a very tight shot like this. And then, of course, when we see the casket actually fall to the floor, and it kind of bounces up and down, or the lid pops up and down, Lewis is looking at Gage's hand. If you look at the background, it just doesn't match up. You have that big opening there where it looks like it was doors in the film, and I find it hard to believe they would have altered this church for that. So here it is, just one last look at the interior of this location for Gage's funeral. Like I said, I don't think they filmed the casket dropping and popping open and Gage's hand. I just don't think they filmed that here, probably due to the nature of the scene and the fact that it needs to be a little more controlled. So a set would make sense, and it's also a very tight shot, so that would also make sense. But that background just simply doesn't match up. It has a similar aesthetic look, but the angles, the walls, and that opening, what looks like doors in the film, it just doesn't match up 100%. So I believe that was probably done on a set, but this is where it would have been. So that's pretty much going to do it for the interior of the church. As I said, this is a very quick scene. There's not a lot of different angles or setups to see, but very important, pivotal scene to the film overall. And it's amazing, between the lights and the stained glass window and the church in general, not much has changed in 35 years. The tragic scene of Gage's funeral. Really intense scene. Denise Crosby said this was her hardest day on the entire film because she had to get into that headspace and had to remain in that headspace all day long. So this is it. Now off to the next one.